Starting a nonprofit takes a high level of commitment. Keeping it going means a lot of hard work. But the most difficult part of all is knowing when it's time to shut it down. Cortney Cole-Hall is a true Renaissance woman. From corporate executive to real estate mogul, she's enjoyed much success. But the loss of her mother inspired something that has saved Houston area women from debt collectors and from homelessness. She founded Pink Door nonprofit because she didn't want women to experience what her mom had to endure, trouble with paying bills. So today you're going to hear us talk about how Pink Door was started, all the great work that it did, and when she knew it was time to sunset the operation. Help us share the mission of the Rose by subscribing to Let's Talk About Your Breast on your favorite podcast platform and by sharing with your family and friends. Let's Talk About Your Breast, a different kind of podcast presented to you by The Rose, a breast center of excellence and a Texas treasure. You're going to hear frank discussions about tough topics, and you're going to learn why knowing about your breast could save your life. Cortney, we're so glad you're with us today. And you know, I have been reading a lot about you and this idea that you've always been an innovator. You've always been a self-starter, always out there trying for something else new. So what shaped that attitude in you in your life?
I would have to say that's definitely my mother. Growing up, I was an introvert at heart. A lot of folks don't necessarily think that about me right away because they think that I'm an extrovert simply because of the different track record that I've had over the last couple of years especially. However, at heart, I'm really an introvert. And so Mom pushed me to do public speaking. She pushed me into pageantry. She pushed me into being on stage. And I think there was something really great about that because it made me learn what it's like to be in front of other people and to be able to socialize on a different level. And so I think without her, I don't know how I would have been able to do what I do today.
Now, that's fascinating. I wouldn't have gone there with any of this, just looking at your background. And, you know, you were a businesswoman. You have a business degree. You won all kind of awards for moving a company forward. And then you went into real estate. And it seems like you found your groove there. Yes.
Real estate is a lot of fun for me. I enjoy helping people find where they're going to live next. It's not an easy career move at all. I think a lot of folks seem to think that real estate is simple, but we're on the emotional roller coaster ride just like our clients are. And that's not an easy place because this is where they place their head at night. This is where they're going to get up with their children every morning. This is where they're taking their kids to school, where their husband goes to work, where the wife goes to work, and maybe she's a stay-at-home mom, or maybe she works from home. It's just it depends on what it is my clients are looking for, but I'm really excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, anywhere you go, it's very personal.
Thank you.
Yes,
it is.
And you really pay attention to that. Now, do you have a particular part of town that you cover, or all over Houston? Or?
That is a fabulous question because a lot of folks do ask me that. I grew up in Sugar Land, Texas since the age of 4, so I'm very familiar with all parts of Houston. However, I do concentrate primarily on the Inner Loop area, but I do take listings in any area of Houston.
So now you are the founder of the Pink Door nonprofit. Yes. And that is an organization that has helped many patients here at the Rose. And it has been a godsend. And even for some of our employees who were diagnosed, who found themselves in a bad spot and turned to Pink Door. So let's talk about that. And let's talk about, why did you start that?
So this all started in 2005 when my mom was in the brink of bone cancer. So she originally was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 49, and then she had recovered. She was actually in recovery from that. And then she ended up being diagnosed with bone cancer. I believe she was the age of 52. So she had bone cancer for about 4 years before she passed. And so I moved back from Los Angeles. A lot of folks don't know, but in Los Angeles, I worked for celebrities. I was in PR out there, and then I worked for CBS Radio for a little while with Metro Networks. And then when my mother got sick, I moved home to help take care of her and literally put my career on hold. But going through and watching firsthand what she was dealing with and the struggles that she was having, I thought to myself after she had passed, why is it that women have to go through this? And it's not just about women. I understand men do too. But typically women aren't always the breadwinner in most cases. And especially in 2005, it was a little bit different back then than it is today, of course. But, I just didn't want any woman to struggle the way my mom did. And so Pink Door was created with that in mind to help women who have had cancer or that are going through cancer by granting them monies for utility bills, for automotive payments, for mortgages, things like that, that really can be incredibly helpful when you're going through something like this.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just for breast cancer
That
patients.
is correct. I'm so glad that you mentioned that because we actually covered all cancers, and a lot of folks simply think that because we're pink that automatically we cover just breast cancer, but I can understand how that perception can be made, but we do cover women with all different types of cancers.
Well, then why did you call it the Pink Door? Where did you get that idea?
Wow. Okay, so this is the true story, because not that I create a different one, but I'm just saying this is the truth of the truth, because it's kind of embarrassing to admit. But one morning I was blow drying my hair, and I was really trying to create a name for this nonprofit. And I prayed about it. I was like, God, come on, you got to help me out here. And as I'm blow drying my hair, the door kept hitting me, and it was driving me nuts, because literally the door's right behind me. I had a very small apartment in a high rise. And so it just kept going back and forth. And finally I was like, oh my gosh, door. Okay. And then I thought about it for a moment, and I was like, wait a minute. The color pink, because mom had breast cancer. And my mom's favorite color is actually what you're wearing today, Dorothy. It's hot pink, ironically. So I thought, why not Pink Door? And that's where the name really came from. And when I was speaking with a couple of my friends about it, they were like, wow, that is such a great name. There's something kind of catchy to it, because my mom used to always say something to me, and it just really resonates with me even to this day. Actually, I just went through this recently, is when one door closes, another one opens. And that really resonated with the fact that when one door closes, meaning you get through cancer, another door opens, which is a brand new life afterward. And so why focus on the past? You got to focus on the future. Right. And so that's where we came in.
That is a great story. I mean, my goodness.
Thank you.
It's almost like you were being nudged from above to do this.
I think so.
Yes.
It wouldn't surprise me with my mom.
No, it sounds like it. And I know that many of your the people that you helped were from all walks of life, from in all kind of different situations, and you had a whole process, but you also had a volunteer staff.
Yes.
I mean, you didn't have a real staff to do this work. How in the world did you manage that?
That, Dorothy, honestly, that was one of the hardest and most challenging parts, I believe, of Pink Door, is that the people that were a part of it, and there were thousands of folks that made a difference with Pink Door. Our board members, our donors, our supporters, our volunteers, the folks that just were on our gala committees. I mean, it's just, there were thousands of people. I can't even name everyone because I'm so nervous I'll forget somebody who's so integral to any pivots that we made too. But to do that, there's no real compensation, right? There's no real reward. So it really boils down to trying to lead a group of folks that believe in the cause and believe in what we do, which is helping women and seeing the difference in these women as the reward. And I think that our team saw that. And I think that's what kept them there. And another thing I just want to mention is, like, a lot of folks after an event or something that we've done that's really amazing, they've come up to me and they're like, Cortney, great job. And I'm like, it's not me. There's a lot more that goes into this. It's God. It's believing in this organization. And most importantly, it's all of the people that are a part of it. I mean, every one of them, from our board chairs to our board members to, like I said, their donors, supporters, volunteers. It took literally a village of people So everybody should be proud of themselves, because without them being a part of this, we wouldn't be anywhere.
Right, right. So you had to have volunteers actually running the program.
Yes.
Seeing where the money would go, looking at applications.
Correct.
Right? And you had to have volunteers help you put on the events
Yes.
that raised the money so that you could give it out. I mean, it was totally all volunteer. That you just don't find that much anymore, really. And it's hard to run. Yes.
You can't, and you usually, especially after this pandemic, right? Because it really took a toll, I think, on a lot of folks and their families. But I also believe that if you have a good team that really believes in the cause, you can push them in a way by letting them know what we're doing to achieve these status roles. Meaning, we're helping thousands of women. Look how it's changed their lives. We literally have boxes and boxes of files with these women's stories. And I've gone through and reread a lot of them just to remember, these moments of what I call triumph. Because we helped these women and we made a difference in their lives.
That's so real, so telling, because you did. And we never know who it is that needs that little help up, and just someone to help you at a certain time in their life.
Absolutely. Did
you have any favorite stories?
Wow. Well, one of my favorite stories who really inspired me was Lou. And Lou was one of our survivor honorees one year in 2000, I think it was 2017. And then she came, it was either 2017 or 2019. But one of the things that really I admired about her was the fact that she actually had a form of brain cancer. And she was an incredible woman, but she always looked to God, and she was so positive, and she was so determined. And hearing her story and the fact that we were able to help her, and her daughters are amazing, by the way. I absolutely love them too. They're phenomenal people. And hearing her story and being a part of her story and helping her was just so amazing to me personally, because I was going through a moment with my health and I was having a difficult time with it. And one of the things I recall from that moment was how much she inspired me. And I thought, you know what? If she can do this, I can do this too.
Wow.
So it's kind of a role reversal situation of someone who's been through the trenches, but then I was inspired by her because of that situation at hand. So it was really amazing. And she really sticks out to me. She actually passed away, I believe in 2020, but her legacy and what she did in sharing with us, all of us at Pink Door, it just lives on forever. It's just incredible. One of the great stories of Pink Door towards the end of Pink Door, towards it was actually 2021. And we were doing one of our last rounds for the program. And we were accepting applications through a certain period of time. And this one woman, she had heard of Pink Door. And I had gone through a very interesting part of my life. I had gone through a breakup myself. And so I was kind of learning to kind of go through the same struggles as someone who just went through something very emotional, such as cancer. And so I'm trying to get back on my feet again. But I think that's what's made me a good person to understand and empathize with others. But I just remember this woman who had tried to get a hold of someone at Pink Door before, and somehow, I don't know how we missed her email, but somehow we did. And that does happen from time to time because we do get quite a few emails coming in. And so I was living in a high rise or mid rise, and there was a gentleman who lived there, and he said, "Cortney, aren't you a part of Pink Door?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he goes, "Aren't you the founder?" I said, "Yes, I am." He goes, "Well, one of my close friends tried to reach out to you guys, and she really needs help. Like, she is literally on the verge. I mean, she does not have any funds to be able to cover any kind of medicine or any kind of therapy while going through this, and she really needs your help. And I cannot tell you how God works so incredibly well, because had he not reached out to me or come up to me, which, by the way, he's a lovely person, I adore him, had come up to me and had asked me that question, we might have missed her email. I don't know, but we found it. Thank God. And she did fit the qualifications and we were able to help her. But I just remember her so vividly, how grateful she was and how amazing it was that she got the help, because it really, truly changed her life. And listening to her firsthand say thank you, it was incredible. It was just the gratitude she had. And you could almost hear these tears through the text message, you know. And I wanted to reach out to her, but I didn't know. I think cancer is kind of hard, even with my mother, because it was hard to know when to get involved, when to emotionally get involved, and when to give people that solitude and that space. It's a very hard balance. You know, and so just her reaching out and saying that to me was so amazing. And I'm so grateful that she had done that, because who would have known? We helped another woman and changed her life forever. She ended up doing a fun run and left a t-shirt for me with our concierge. And she's like, Cortney, this is for you. And it was so cool. And I still have it in my closet to today.
Of course. She'll never get rid of that.
Yeah, I can't, because it's so much sentimental value to that, right? But it's just so incredible, and I'm so grateful for it. But I just wanted to share that story, because it's just goes back to, you know, we can't get to every email. We're an all-volunteer organization. Sometimes we miss things, but and it doesn't make it any better. We try our hardest, but it was such a great, impactful moment that I think God stepped in and said, hey,
we call that a God thing.
100%.
100%. And
He's so awesome.
That's what made Pink Door so special.
Thank you.
So are you going to put all these stories in a book?
That's a possibility. I have thought a lot about that. Going through some different life lessons and growing pains myself, it's really warming, and it's really a great feeling to know that other people have gone through it with you. And how was it that they were able to get through it? And I think there's something to be said about these stories for other women that are going through the same struggle my mom did.
Yeah. That is one of the things that we talk a lot about here on this podcast is it's not all you get well. It's not all you get through your treatment. It's not, you know, yes, we have lots of survivors, but boy, to survive takes so much. And it's just not easy any way you go with cancer. It is a tough, tough road.
It is.
And, you know, you've seen a lot then. You've lost people. You've helped people that you lost. And, you know, how did you deal with all of that emotion when you were right in the middle of it?
It's a lot. It really is. It's a grieving cycle. We have lost other folks that we've helped along the way, other incredible women. And it's tough to have those feelings and those emotions, because a lot of times we get to know who they are. And it's not just I get to know who they are. I also get to know them through our team. So it doesn't just affect me personally. It also affects all of us. And two of the folks that really helped out with our entire program was Therese Flaherty and Dr. Julie Rowe. And both of them were integral to this process, making sure that the women that came through our program qualified, that they hit all the qualifications of the program, but also talking with these women firsthand and then hearing their stories also from them, but also reading about it. It affected all of us. And to have an all-volunteer organization that's affecting us emotionally, it can be very overwhelming.
Yeah. Did you have times when you worried that you were going to be able to go on just because of that emotional toll?
There were times. I think the hardest for me personally, I can't really speak for the team, but I can say for me, I think the hardest part for me was at the very beginning, because the stories that we got were pages long, and it was a little bit different because we didn't have a full application to fill out. So we would receive these letters that were really heartfelt, but hearing the pain that they're going through personally was just overwhelming.
And knowing you couldn't help everyone.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that was tough too.
Yeah.
You know, because I think one of the hardest parts for me is as an empath too. I'm a very strong empath, and I think we take on some of those emotions and live with them. But I can say for my own struggles, I can definitely empathize with that. And especially seeing my mother firsthand was very difficult as well.
So as a daughter of a breast cancer survivor, do you worry about that kind of fate for yourself?
All the time. All the time. That's why I love the Rose. That's why I love what you do. And I don't think women understand how important it is to go get your mammograms and to double check everything. We might feel our breasts. A lot of times, you know this, Dorothy, is that usually our significant other will figure that out before we do. But the most important aspect is to make sure you're taking care of yourself. It's definitely on my mind, but I try to live life to the fullest every day and not take it for granted. And a lot of that comes from the women that we've spoken with. But again, I think the Rose is so amazing because it's so important to get this done. And true story, I can't believe I did this, so I'm going to have to share this with you. So in March, I get this postcard. You're due for your mammogram. And I was like, no, that's not the case. I just had my mammogram in October of 2022. Like, what are they talking about? Well, I come to find out I was wrong. I realized, no, I was due for a mammogram in March of 2023. And I waited until October 2023. Now, here's the thing. Normally, at my age, you would think it's not that big of a deal. But the truth is, my mom was diagnosed almost at my age. So it's a big deal to miss something of that stature. So I immediately made my appointment. And so I encourage all women, don't let that lapse. Go get it looked at. Call the Rose. Go get your mammograms taken care of. Even if you can't afford it, you got to do it because it's so important to make sure you are okay because it is prevalent. It just is.
Absolutely. We are seeing so much more than we've ever seen, and especially in younger women. And, too often a young woman is told, oh, you're too young for a mammogram or you're too young for breast cancer. No, that's not true. Your mother was really on the young side.
She was.
Yeah.
She was 49, and she actually felt it years prior, but she was so afraid to go get it looked at. And that's why doing it early and catching it early in stage 1 is so incredibly important and not putting it off.
Right. But women have so many pressures on them. They have, and I cannot tell you how many times I've heard the story you just told. In fact, I'm guilty of it myself, and all I have to do is walk down the hall. But, we think, oh, we're going to get to that, or we just tend to put ourselves at that bottom of the list, and then it creeps up on us, and all of a sudden it's been a while. Yeah, but hey, that's a great message to all of our listeners.
Absolutely.
Women need that encouragement. I always say we don't need to be scolded or educated anymore. We kind of know. We just need to be encouraged, and we are worth it.
Absolutely, and bring a friend.
Oh yeah,
Here's the thing. One of my best friends, Heather, and I talked about this at length. She was very nervous to go get her mammogram. I said, why don't we go do it together? Because at this day and age, anybody could be diagnosed.
Oh yes,
and so it just helps to have someone there. Or go as a group of friends,
yes.
A group of women to go together and go get it done. Because I think we put it off, trying to displace it out of our mind that this could actually happen to us. But it's so important to just go ahead, get it knocked out, and double check things because a lot of that breast tissue is dense. Mine is one of them. So you have to be very careful in making sure that not just you get your mammogram, but double check to ensure you may or may not need an ultrasound. because that part of it is just as important, especially with dense breasts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So you just make a party of it.
I
Get
do.
your girlfriends together and
Oh,
you're just
yeah.
going to make a party of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Why not?
Why not? That's the best way to do it. So now fast forward, you're into 2020, and that really took a hit on Pink Door.
It did.
Because so many of your events were really in person and...
Correct.
Yeah.
It was kind of a tough ride in 2020 for a multitude of reasons. I felt that all of us were just dispersed everywhere. You know, we had people that were not even in Houston. They were a big part of Pink Door at that time because we got stuck in different places. But I will say that we tried to have a huge event in 2021, but I believe that we were still coming out of that pandemic mode and et cetera. And honestly, I got to a point personally where as an all volunteer organization, it was a lot for me. Mm-hmm. And I had made...
Well, it's not like you're not working full time.
Correct.
Right. And running a household and all those other things.
100%.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
100%. And so I had moved on. I was an executive for Office Depot, Office Max Business Solutions Division for a number of years. And so moving over from that into real estate was a huge transition in my life. And there's multitudes of reasons why I did it. One of my biggest ones is a passion for real estate, but getting a real estate business up and running and being an entrepreneur on that side of it, while at the same time having a nonprofit that's almost a full-time position as well, was a lot. And so it was a difficult decision. Maybe not everyone would agree with it, but it was a decision that needed to be made. And the most important aspect of it, and this is my analogy for it, is Sarah Jessica Parker, who's a big part of Sex and the City, had to make a very difficult decision as well at one point. She stated, I wanted to end the show on a great note when we were still in a great place. Everyone still loved it. She wanted to end it on a good note. And that's kind of how I felt at the time about Pink Door. I wanted it to end on a fabulous note, that we were going to be able to provide funds to beneficiaries who believe in the cause that what we're doing, but more importantly, they have a fantastic causes for women as well. And I also wanted to be able to have an event that created the opportunity for this transition so that other people knew moving forward that have been so loyal to us for so long, donors, supporters, volunteers, sponsors, that they knew where we were providing funds to, that they could also do the same.
That was really magical. I mean, that night was just
I'm so glad you were there.
Perfect. It was just and so thoughtful of you.
Thank you.
I kept watching you and the courage it took just to address the audience or the crowd. I mean, had to be a tough night.
It was hard. It was a tough night. And I will say that Jennifer Trenta, who's been a part of our board for some time, did such an incredible job coordinating that event. She worked diligently, and I'm talking hours on end, to ensure that we had such an amazing event in terms of the flowers and the decor and the food and the cocktails, and just being able to cheer on our beneficiaries and know that we did such an amazing job. And I also want to thank all of our board members, all of our former board members that have put time and energy for years and years into what we've done. I mean, it was an incredible opportunity.
Oh, no, Cortney, it was a Hollywood event. I mean,
Thank
it was
you.
just wonderful. And I think for the beneficiaries, and the Rose was one, and we thank you very much
Absolutely.
for that. But it was a gift. It was a gift to be able to be there and to have your endorsement. I mean, that's a big deal.
Thank you.
To have, because you've already done all this and you've been successful with it, but for you to say, okay, to my donors who have trusted me,
Yes.
you can trust this organization. That was a real gift. It was so special that night.
On behalf of our team, it's our fantastic pleasure, because it was not easy for us to figure out exactly who we wanted to give the monies to, because there's so many great nonprofits out there, but we felt like the four that we chose were stellar in terms of folks that we've met before and we've gotten to know over the years, and that we felt strongly that our funds are going into a fantastic place.
Right. Well, they certainly made a difference in the life of women that here at the Rose and will continue.
Great. I love hearing that. That makes me so happy.
Oh, yeah. Now, and when did you know it was time? What was the deciding factor for you, or was there one?
I think 2020 gave a pause, I think, for a lot of us across the board. I think that we all had a moment in time where God just blessed us with the opportunity to say, what do we really want? What can we really handle? And how are we going to move forward? And for me, I really thought about the fact that can I really run a successful real estate organization, so to speak, for my team, but by the same token, be able to carry on Pink Door 110% that I've always been giving it, with all the sacrifices and the time and the energy that we've placed into it, which has been incredible. And for me, I really had to think about that. And it was a very difficult decision, but I went to our board chair and I said, listen, I'm tired. I'm exhausted. We've been doing this for 16 years. And it's not just about me. It's about our team. Mm-hmm. It's about the people that support us. And we really had to think that through and say, is this really the time? How do we do that? And we kind of went through the who, what, where, how, why, when, those questions together, Marshall Sweet and I. And in doing so, we came to the conclusion that maybe this is a good time. Again, ending it on a great note and being able to pass it forward. Because I didn't want to be in a place where we were struggling and where we didn't know what we were going to do next. I wanted to leave it on, again, a great place high up. So we made the decision to purchase a room at Hope Lodge, and in memory of my mother and, of course, Pink Door. And in that room, you can find some information about Pink Door, and what they do is they provide a free room to women or men that are going through cancer during their cancer journey and getting through it over in the medical center, but also being able to provide the funds to the beneficiaries. And how are we going to do that? And how are we going to select it? And what are the qualifications? And really getting through that piece and then bringing it to the board. So it was definitely a process. I mean, this was not a knee-jerk reaction. This was not an impulsive decision. This was something that was very well thought out and strategized to make sure that we were picking the right things for moving forward, and most importantly, for the women that we've helped.
And so the Hope Lodge, now that's a legacy that will go on and on. I mean,
yes,
Pink Door is not done. You're still out there helping.
Yes, it's incredible. So I think that having her legacy and also Pink Door's legacy and all of the people that have helped us throughout the years being there forever and ever is just incredible. Yeah. So we're not forgotten. And then, of course, giving these funds to the Rose and being able to live through that legacy is really huge as well. Right. So I think we did a great job at the end of the day, making sure that we wrapped it up the right way.
Oh, you did.
And that's not easy to do. And I'm so glad that you have these Kleenex here, because honestly, I'm surprised that I haven't broken down and cried yet.
I am too.
Because usually I will.
Yeah.
But I'm very grateful for you guys, and I'm so grateful to be here, and I'm so grateful that we chose the right folks. It was hard, but we did.
Oh, yeah. And again, you were very thoughtful. You gave it to different areas so that different needs could be met.
Yes.
Yes. And, you know, when you think of all the lives you touched, it's not just the women. It was their families and their loved ones that, you know, you helped make it a little smoother for them. It's very hard for people to ask for help. And I am astounded that people were so willing to open up to you and say, here's what's going on with me. I mean, I think your process was really stellar.
Thank you.
Yeah, that you didn't put them in compromised position or, it's just hard to ask for help
It
when
is
you're down.
hard to ask for help. I think, in experiencing some of that on a different level myself, I have a hard time asking for help.
Oh, yeah.
So, I can't imagine going through cancer and you're really struggling and it's already debilitating in terms of like emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually in some ways. And then having to ask for monetary underwriting, so to speak, or grants. It's just really hard. It's really hard. And I have a lot of respect for the women that have come to us because I'm sure that wasn't easy, but I'm so excited that we were able to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm very honored that we were able to. Yeah.
So what advice would you give someone who's thinking about starting a nonprofit because they want, as you did, to help people? What would you tell them?
Okay, here's the thing. I promise you, one thing I've learned is that God does not tell you what you're going to do. You just go through the struggle, but he doesn't always tell you on the other end how amazing it's going to be. And I think that, and how much work goes into it. I had no idea how much work goes in. I have so much respect for 501c3s. People do not understand how hard it is, and these fundraisers and these galas that are put on, there's a lot of time and effort and strategy that's put into it. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I really didn't. I had never started a nonprofit before. I didn't know how I was going to start it. I just knew that was part of my purpose of being on this planet. Bottom line. And I feel like even moving forward, as I start a new platform and there is something coming that, again, I don't think God tells us everything that's going to happen, but I think there's a purpose behind that, because if I had known how much work goes into it, I may have not done it. And it's not because I don't want to help people, and it's not because I don't believe in the women that we've helped. It's because it's hard. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of sacrifice. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of energy. But I'm so happy I did it. I do not regret one moment of time that I put into this, that our team put into this, that our co-founder put into this, that I think it's incredible that we all came together and did it. But it was hard, Dorothy. I'm not joking. Like, I still remember countless hours and trying to find ways to pay people to do different things, whether it be a CPA or an attorney, so we could file it. Right. It all came out of my pocket. And I remember our very first event was in Midtown. And I firsthand spent $16,000 out of my pocket on this event.
Wow.
And I didn't know if I'm going to make this money back or not. And we just got our 501c3 by Greg Olwine from the IRS. I still remember his name. I can't believe I remember it, from 16 years ago. We just got it approved only a week before the event. So I was shaking in my boots because I didn't know if we were really going to be able to accept funds or not for this event. So I was taking a huge risk with this. Oh. But at the same time, I believed in it enough that I was like, you know what, we're going to do this. And I'm a visionary at heart, and I was like, let's just make it happen. And we did. We actually made more than 16,000. I think we ended up at 20 or 21,000, something of that nature. But that was our first big event. And I still remember it so clearly, and how difficult it was to put it together and get it executed. But I was very fortunate that our co-founder, Lee Mitchell, was there to execute that opportunity, and she did an amazing job. And it was just a lot of work. Oh, yeah. It really was. We put a lot of time and effort into it. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. It was just, you got to just do it. And I let God take over and lead me through it.
Right. I always said we kind of went by the seat of our pants for a long time there. 100%. And probably some days still do. That's just the way it is in the nonprofit world. So now, after impacting thousands of lives and families and helping so many people, now Pink Door has come to an end. But what's your next adventure?
So the next adventure, as a visionary at heart, is something that will be coming out probably around mid-January. We'll start making those announcements. And then at that point, I can't say what it is just yet. I know. I want to say something, but I feel like I don't want to.
No. We want to have you back when you get it started and have you
to be
do
back.
that.
I would love it. That would be such an honor. I'm so grateful. I think that when this happens and unfolds, I think it's going to be really amazing. And I'm really looking forward to 2024. There was, now that we've tied up Pink Door and tied up some other things in my life personally, I am so excited about 2024, especially with this new platform that's coming out and this new opportunity that is about to be unveiled. And I hope and pray that I inspire other women to do the same.
Wow.
Is all I can give.
Wow. Well, we wish you all the luck in the world because we know you're not going to need it. You're just going to forge ahead and you're going to get it done. But how exciting. And, we can't wait to hear.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us today and for being the supporter that you've been and for helping us help our women in so many ways that we never could have done without you. So thank you to Pink Door and to Cortney and to all the other people that made it happen, make it possible.
And thank you, Dorothy, so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here. I am so ecstatic about the Rose. I know we met years and years ago, and I'll never forget you and myself and Pink Ribbon Project at the time. And I think there was a fourth. I can't remember who the fourth was, but there was four of us that were sitting together talking a little bit about a couple different things over in the Sawyer Heights area. And I'll never forget that. And I'm just so grateful to be here and have the Rose be a part of our beneficiaries for Pink Door.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on Let's Talk About Your Breasts. This podcast is produced by Speak Podcasting and brought to you by The Rose. Visit therose.org to learn more about our organization. Subscribe to our podcast, share episodes with friends, and join the conversation on social media using hashtag Let's Talk About Your Breasts. We welcome your feedback and suggestions. Consider supporting The Rose. Your gift can make the difference to a person in need. And remember, self-care is not selfish. It's essential.